want to go on a vacation, but you don't know exactly what to do. You'd like to be able to climb a mountain. So you find a mountain, you begin climbing, you're going, it's arduous, it's tedious, it's strenuous, and it's very time consuming. But along the way, suddenly something occurs to you. What if I could have started my vacation at the top of the mountain? That leads us, and by the way, if you're interested in buying or selling a home, you got to pay attention now. That leads us to the very top of the mountain here in Omaha, Nebraska, Mr. Tim Reeder with the Good Life Group. Tim, thanks for joining us. We want to know all about what has brought you to the top of the mountain, my friend.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Lynn. Thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be here. It's so funny you say top of the mountain. It doesn't feel like you're at the top of the mountain when you're on it. But I will say I've had a really great run, and it's all been relationships. I moved to Omaha about 28 years ago, and I didn't know a soul, and I focused on getting to know people and to leverage relationships and put other people's interests first, and then I got everything I ever wanted.
Wow, that's a tremendous amount of insight. Now, Tim, you work at the Good Life Group. You're the broker there, but you work under the Better Homes and Gardens umbrella. Tell us briefly, what is that and how does that work?
So in a nutshell, I've been a real estate broker for 28 years in Omaha. However, I used to run a real estate team called the Good Life Group. It was all about relationship marketing, and if you took really good care of your clients, they would become walking, talking billboards for you. Your customer service markets itself. I was able to turn that into a brokerage. I partnered with some other people, and we are Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, the Good Life Group. We are not a team. We are a real estate brokerage, about 360 agents and staff, 7 offices, number 3 in the market, and we are all focusing on relationships.
Well, you've just learned a huge amount of wisdom very quickly here from Tim Reeder with the Good Life Group. And Tim, you office here in front of this beautiful place, the Joslyn Castle, over in Underwood. Where are you physically when people want to come and see you?
So it depends on which hat I'm wearing. So real estate sales, that's going to be in Dundee, right on the southeast corner of 50th and Underwood at Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, the Good Life Group. But then I'm also the leader of multiple nonprofits. One of them is Preserve Omaha, where we are based here in the Joslyn Castle.
Well, we'll get more from Tim Reeder here very quickly. A lot of insight that he's sharing with you right now. Don't forget, learn everything you can. We'll go on to the next segment here shortly. We've learned about Tim Reeder, his incredible career, but he has a special eye, a special feel for a market segment here in the Omaha, Nebraska area. Tim, talk to us about vintage homes, would you please?
Yeah, I consider myself I fell in love with old and historic homes, and so I call them vintage homes, homes that have character and have style.
And is that primarily in the middle of the city, or is it anywhere? Can it just be anywhere, a vintage home?
So I consider anything vintage, anything before 1978, really, because that's when we talk about lead and paint. And so anything older than 1978, a lot of these homes have character, they have style, they all have history, and it's what brings them all together.
When you say character and style, and I don't mean to get too specific, but I'm sure you have some examples. Is it the floor? Is it the high ceiling? Is it the porch? I mean, what are the qualities that people kind of think about when this word, we have a new old home?
The answer is yes. It's all of those. It depends on the house. It depends on the style. It depends on the era. It depends on whether or not it's vintage. I consider vintage to be something that's a good example of its era, or a good representation of what that architect or the people was trying to do, or the people that lived there at the time.
Has Omaha changed? Do they embrace vintage homes more or less these days than they did back when they were actually being developed?
Well, I will say Omaha as a whole has always been about 20 years behind other cities, and that has benefited us in some ways in that our historic and old areas haven't been as beaten up or as ravaged as other parts of the countries. So a lot of our homes are still standing. Just homes that are mostly on the east side of town, mostly east of 72nd Street, but they do span all the way from Bellevue all the way up to Florence, just pretty much anything that's old, that has character, and that has a history.
Is it easy to update or rehab a vintage home, or is that typically not what people even think about doing at all?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, while we all love old homes, most of us do, we also don't want to live in museums. And so it's very common for the new buyer, the new homeowner to want to do some updates, whether that be adding primary bathrooms, primary suites, doing safety things, handrails, these kinds of things. Also, old houses typically didn't have a kitchen like we have now. They would have Hoosiers and tables. Now we want cabinets. So we don't want to live in a museum. We want to live in a house that has been modernized, and that is normal.
What is the role of trees in this kind of environment when you assess a home like that? Do trees play a role?
I'm glad you brought up trees. Trees get me really excited. Trees are the fabric of what bring up the historic areas. When you're driving in, when you think of an old neighborhood, you think of old homes, there's a tree in the front yard. Trees cool your house. They shield it from winter storms. They actually add value to homes. So I'm obsessed with trees just as much as I am houses.
You know, I know that throughout the entire city of Omaha, there are a lot of trees and a lot of these kinds of homes, by the way. Tell us a little bit. You've kind of seemed to become deeply ingrained about Omaha. Tell us your role there. And I know you play some nonprofit groups and so on.
Well, the answer is actually kind of long, but if I could put it in a nutshell, not only did I fall in love with Omaha, I fell in love with Omaha's history. So when I moved to Omaha in the late 90s. And so I just got very invested in Omaha's history. I am now the president of Preserve Omaha, which is Omaha's heritage preservation organization. I'm also on the board of Prospect Hill Cemetery. I also have my own nonprofit called Retree Midtown, trying to replenish the trees that have been taken down on our major streets that we all share. So I find these things all work hand in hand together. And by focusing my love on these passions, it just helps me sell houses. So helping people buy and sell old homes is my bread and butter. It's what pays the bills. It's what I'm really good at. But then it gives me the opportunity to do all those other things that I get really excited about.
Do you feel that your clients want to work with you because of these broader picture considerations, or do they just hone in on a particular home because they've got these cool features that they really like, and that's all it really takes to get the deal done?
Typically, my demographic of client is somebody who's invested in their home or wants to be invested in their home. Somebody who is looking to either buy or sell a home that's got some character or style. The truth is, look, you can go out West Omaha, you can spend less money and get more of a house out there. It didn't used to be that way, but it is now. Now you're in the Midtown and the old areas, the historic, the Dundee, the Field Club, the Morton Meadows. Those are the areas where you pay a little bit more money, you get a smaller house, but you're going to get something that's going to stand the test of time, and it's going to last longer.
All right. Well, Tim Reeder with the Good Life Group here in Omaha, Nebraska. Any other final suggestions if we want to buy or sell? Any little pieces of tips or advice or whatever as they kind of move into the market and work with people as good as you almost?
Well, anytime you want to be on the east side of town, you're in my heart, whether you want to buy or sell, because this is, I feel like, is where the energy is, at least the kind that I'm drawn to. I would say if you are looking to sell and you have a vintage home, something that you don't even know if it's vintage, let me know in advance, well in advance. I love to meet with people a year or years before they're even ready to put the house on the market, because there's a lot of things that I do to give you advice to get ready.
Well, Tim Reeder, you know, of all this information, I have to tell you the thing that turns me on the most is the relationship emphasis that you came up with. We just have a few seconds, guys. Tell me again, how do you build a relationship other than being nice to somebody and chatting a little bit?
Well, being of service to people, first of all, being there for anything they know. Being a realtor, they come to you for everything. Plumbers, electricians, handyman, babysitters. They think that you're out there in the world and you get to know people so that you're trusted. And it's really nice that people come to me for these things. The real estate becomes the byproduct.
Come to the mountain with Tim Reeder and Good Life Group. Thanks so much for watching, and you will see this man again, but if you want to get to the top of the mountain. Thanks for watching.